Good evening, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here, your weather enthusiast, and in this evening's update, this is going to be a lot more detailed as we are really concerned about a huge winter storm. This is now named again Winter Storm Elliott as it moves across the northern plains into the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast, bringing or will likely bring blizzard conditions along to go with very heavy snowfall and dangerously cold Arctic wind chills. Now, if you are new to the YouTube channel and you really like these detailed weather discussions, please consider subscribing if you're new, hitting the like button, and sharing this video with their family and friends. And also, we do have a Weather Force Discord server. There's a link in the description below this video. So we're going to start off this video looking at the GFS model, or known as the Global Forecasting System, for December the 21st, 2022. This is tomorrow, and we can see where the snow actually is. It's over Wyoming, it's over northern Colorado if you're in the northern plains, such as Minnesota. If you're in Iowa, Wisconsin, you're going to get some snow that could be heavy at times, along to go with strong winds. That's why there's blizzard warnings issued up there already for tomorrow. This system is going to get very intense by the time we go into Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon. You can see stretching all the way from central and northeastern portion there of Oklahoma, in central eastern Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Wisconsin for your Thursday. Very well stretched system. Lots of snow that is going to be falling out of this. All right, but it's going to get even worse. By Thursday afternoon, we can see the heaviest snowfall going to be really accumulating all the way from Arkansas into the Great Lakes. So that's Thursday afternoon. And then by Thursday evening, it gets really strong. Look at this. Bombing cyclone that we are likely to see now over Tennessee, over Georgia, over Alabama, over Ohio. If you're in Michigan, Wisconsin, this is going to be affecting quite a bit of people, especially down here to the south, where again, snowfall is looking a little more likely. I mean, wow. Okay, Tennessee could get some pretty serious snowfall totals out of this on the GFS model, along to go with some pretty big winds that are expected. All right, and then by Friday morning, by Friday afternoon, the system is immense. We are talking about very heavy snowfall over Michigan, over Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, Pennsylvania. If you're in Erie, Pennsylvania, if you are in say Buffalo, Watertown, New York, Syracuse, New York, lots of heavy snowfall is anticipated out of this system. So keep that in mind. If you're doing anything outdoors, definitely don't do it Thursday afternoon all the way through Saturday, because the snow is going to be coming down pretty good here for some locations. In fact, some of the Great Lakes here could be looking at some big time snowfall totals through Saturday afternoon as the lake effect snow machine gets going with this weather system. As the low pressure moves off to the north of those lakes, we're going to drag in a lot of cold air over the warm lake waters, and that's going to lead to some serious snowfall totals. And then, of course, briefly going to mention this, we have another snowstorm on the GFS model that we will have to keep an eye on by the early to the middle of next week. This looks to fizzle out by the time it does go into the Midwest, but some of the models more aggressively are showing that could be also another significant snowstorm. So something to really monitor. Very active weather pattern. That's where we're at right now. Okay. So the European model solution, very similar story. We can see the snow moving across the high plains into the Great Lakes throughout the day on Thursday into Friday. Gets going pretty seriously if you are in the Midwest. Okay. The upper Midwest going to get clobbered with moderate to heavy snowfall as a barrel clinic deepening surface low gets underway. As matters of fact, when we take a look at our eastern sector on better detail here, we can exactly see where that surface low is at 996 millibars, but then it's going to get more mature here on the European model by Friday morning. So the European has this a little bit further to the east than the GFS model solution, and we could actually compare those really quickly for you all because you guys are awesome and everything. So we can see there's your surface low right there at 09Z on Friday. Here's a look at 12Z. So it's a little bit slower, just a hair slower on the European model, but pretty much the same ordeal with the moderate to heavy snowfall. Now the difference here is the European model is not too snow friendly over Tennessee, over northern Alabama or Georgia, has lesser snowfall totals in that area, but we're still in the ballpark at a big significant winter storm that is anticipated here, and very intense snowfall there over Lake Michigan, Erie, Pennsylvania, Michigan. If you are in New York, big time strong winds and colder temperatures. Speaking of wind, let's take a look at that here as we go into Sunday. So that's a look at that. Okay, so the winds, definitely a big deal out of this. Winds 20 to 30 miles an hour out of the northwest across much of the central plains and the Midwest, but it's really going to get ugly if you are in the Great Lakes because, again, this surface low is going to explode. It's going to bomb out. So when we talk about a weather bombing cyclone, we get those winds that increase, right? Because the pressure difference is more greater around the surface low than if it weren't. So we can see by Friday morning, look at these winds over Illinois, over Wisconsin, over Iowa, over southern Minnesota. This is why there are already winter storm warnings for that area and blizzard warnings. Wait until you see the National Weather Service. Pretty epic, okay? Big time winds over Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Lake Superior. Wow. Big time, all right? We are going to likely see some wind damage. We're going to see blizzard conditions, blowing, drifting snow out of this. And that's because, again, these winds are going to be epic. Look at Watertown. Look at Buffalo. Winds could be anywhere between 45 to 50 miles an hour with winds over the Great Lakes here, such as Lake Erie and Lake Michigan, could have sustained winds of over 55 to 60 miles an hour. That is pretty wild if you ask me, because the pressure is going to be tight and so are the winds are going to be epic. When you take a look at wind gusts here really quickly on the GFS model, you can see 40 to 50 mile an hour winds in a pretty big area with 50 to 60 mile an hour winds in northern Ohio and also Detroit, Michigan. Again, some of you that live in Detroit, are you going to get a blizzard out of this? Probably, very likely to see that. And of course, if you're in Buffalo, New York, you could have gusts as high as 60 to 75 miles an hour. That will really cause a lot of downed trees and power lines. Okay, here's a look at the National Weather Service. We're going to go in a little bit more in-depth detail with what this all means for your location. So we're going to first start off with the wind chill warnings. That is this gray area on the map that extends all the way down into southern Missouri, across the border of Kansas into Oklahoma, all the way down across central and eastern Colorado, all the way up across, if you're in the Utah, if you're in Idaho, all the way down or up across the Pacific Northwest. I mean, we got wind chill warnings and wind chill advisories over there. That is pretty historical when you think about it. You don't see that very often in, say, central Washington. If you are in northern Oregon, you don't hear about that very often. So big time Arctic temperatures are expected here. Now, when we look at our next thing here, this is winter storm warnings, okay? Right here in the pink, winter storm warnings and blizzard warnings, all in red here. That is the first time we've seen something in this area in a while, and so this tells you we're already going to see blizzard conditions out of Winter Storm Elliott because of what is going on here. And then, of course, to the east of that, we have storm watches over Lake Michigan, and we have winter storm watches surrounding that in Indiana, in Michigan, as well as in St. Louis, Missouri. And then look at all of, oh, okay, I forgot to mention you guys here, winter storm warnings too over here across the northern and central Rockies with high wind warnings. And then down here to the south, we got wind chill watches. And I mean, wow, all the way down here to the very southern tip, the last southernmost county in Texas, under a winter or under a wind chill watch, with wind chill watches and hard freeze watches down here across Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, with winter weather advisories, I believe that is. So we might see snow and freezing rain and sleet this far south. So this is a nasty system that we're dealing with. And eventually there will be winter weather products and wind products over the Northeast. As soon as we get a little closer for those neighboring offices, they'll start issuing products there, and they could be extremely serious, including lake effect snow warnings, watches, high wind warnings and watches, blizzard warnings, and that sort of good stuff. All right, so big time active map here. I've not seen anything like this since, my goodness, since Winter Storm Keenan, I think it was, when that system dropped down here and then it went up the east coast, but it was more of a nor'easter here back across the eastern seaboard. This is similar, but more across the Great Lakes and the Midwest, and that is a very colorful map. All right, so therefore, I have done the same thing, and I have actually issued, let me go to full screen so you guys can see this. There are now, and I have issued this. This is my own product. This is not the National Weather Service. This is issued by myself. Okay, I make the choice what areas will be under what. So in the areas in red, Great Falls, Rapid City, Fargo, Omaha, Nebraska, you are now under a storm warning. I've taken that away over Seattle and Idaho just because of the magnitude of this event in the Midwest. So that's been moved over to the east. So you are now under a storm warning. This means you're likely to see blizzard conditions, dangerously cold wind chills as low as 60 degrees below zero, and you are likely to see a little bit of snow, enough to really cause problems. And along to go with the strong winds that could reach 50 to 60 miles an hour, that's making me issue a storm warning. And then of course a storm watch that I've issued across, I know it's cut off there for some reason, I don't know why that is, but for Dallas, for Oklahoma City, you're under a storm watch. St. Louis, Chicago, storm watch. This means life-threatening to significant weather conditions are possible within the next 3 to 4 days. That's what that actually means. And I'm coordinating this pretty well with what we have here on the map with all the watches, warnings, and advisories. So now to the favorite part of this video is how much snowfall are you going to get? And this is such a detailed video that I am now including statewide snowfall total, so everyone is curious. So make sure you forward to points of the video. I'm going to have a lot of timestamps in this video to make sure you can navigate the video very well, because this is probably going to end up close to 30 minutes long. So here's a look at the New York snowfall totals. Jamestown, Buffalo, possibly between 8 to 18 inches. Again, lake effect snow determination here. Like if the lake effect snow pans out as it is, might see almost 2 feet of snow there. Watertown could see 2 feet of snow. Syracuse, according to the European model, could see as much as 3 to 5 inches. If you're in Birmingham, Sarasota Springs, possibly 2 to 4 inches. Potsdam there at about 8 inches. If you're in Belleville, they're in Canada, 5 inches. If you are in Toronto, 3.5 inches. Kingston, 8.5 inches of snowfall. So now, what about the snowfall totals over Pennsylvania? Erie, Pennsylvania, 18 to 20 inches of snow. Grove City, 5.5 to 8 inches. If you're in Pittsburgh, 2 inches. Somerset, 4 inches. Altoona, 4 to 5 inches. State College there in central Pennsylvania, 4 inches. St. Mary's, 4 inches. Williamsport there at 2 inches. Scranton, Pennsylvania, about 2 inches. Hazleton there at 2 inches. Further south you go, like Philadelphia, might only see a dusting at the very most. Morgantown down there across southernmost tip, probably right on the border there at 1.5 inches. Hagerstown there in Maryland, about 1.5 inches of snowfall. Now, as far as the Ohio snowfall totals, again, if you're living in Ohio here, Toledo, 7 inches, Sandusky, 7 inches, Cleveland, 8 inches. If you're in Canton, they're 4 inches, Mansfield, 6 inches, Youngertown, 4 to 5 inches. Delaware, 2 inches. Columbus, 2 inches. Cincinnati, about 2 to 3 inches. If you're in Lima, they're about 5 inches. Troy, 2 to 5 inches of snow. Bowling Green, 7 to 10 inches of snow is possible. Fort Wayne in Indiana, 9 inches. If you're in Richmond, 4 inches. If you're in Sturgis in Michigan, they're at 18 inches. Wait until you see the next sector here. Speaking of Michigan, here's a look at those Michigan snowfall totals. If you're in Muskegon, they're about 24 inches. If you're in Kalamazoo, Michigan, 24 inches. That's 2 feet, according to the European model. And these snowfall totals are through Sunday, so through Christmas Day. Transverse City, 24 inches. If you're in Flint, 19 inches. Detroit, 8 to 15 inches of snow is possible. On Godrich, they're in Canada, 19 inches. Sarina Sarina, something like that, in Michigan, 8 inches. All right, so that's a look at Michigan. Let's move on to Indiana and portions there of Iowa, as well as Illinois. Rockford, Illinois, 6 inches. Arlington Heights, 6 inches. Chicago, 8 inches. Gary, Indiana, 8 inches. South Bend, 19 inches. Fort Wayne, 9 inches. If you're in Kokomo, Indiana, possibly as much as 12 inches of snowfall. Lafayette, Indiana, about 10 inches. Indianapolis, 8 inches. If you're in Bloomington, 5 inches. Terre Haute in Indiana, about 10 inches. Evansville, 4 inches. If you are in Springfield, Indiana, or not Indiana, if you are in Illinois, they're about right around 5 inches. Peoria there, about 5 inches. If you're in Quincy, in Illinois there, about 6 inches is anticipated. If you're in St. Louis, Missouri, 5 inches. Rolla, Missouri, 6 inches. If you're in Columbia, right around 6 to 7 inches anticipated. If you're in Carbondale there in southern Illinois, Evansville coming in both at 4 inches. Now we're going to take a look here at Bowling Green in Kentucky, as well as Tennessee for these regions. So Lexington, Fayette, there in Kentucky, about 2 inches. Elizabethtown, about 2 inches. Bowling Green, 2 inches. Clarksville, 2 inches. Paducah, 4 inches. Cookeville, 2 inches. If you're in Nashville, Tennessee, about 1 inch. Knoxville, possibly very little snowfall is anticipated with this. Now again, this is on the European model. The GFS had a lot more snow for this area, so there are a lot of differences, but I'm gonna stay a little generous in this video just because there is that uncertainty. There's no exact forecast just yet, unfortunately. Hopefully we get the fine details on that, but right now I'm going to keep Knoxville there right under 1 inch of snow, but the rough range here is possibly as much as 1 to 12 inches given that area. All right, Jackson, Tennessee, possibly 1 to 8 inches of snowfall is anticipated. Now, as far as Michigan goes, actually, wait, did I cover everything? Yes, I did. Okay, let's go to Michigan here, or not Michigan. Wisconsin. There we go. If you're in Wausau there, 7 inches. Stevens Point, 7.5 inches. Green Bay coming in at 9 inches. Milwaukee, you were looking at maybe 3 feet of snow just a couple of days ago. Well, that has been shaved down quite a bit, down to about 7 inches now, according to the latest European model. Madison, 6 inches. La Crosse in Minnesota, about 6 inches. La Crosse, either way. In Wisconsin or Minnesota, it goes both ways there, right on the border. If you're in Minneapolis, 6 inches. Duluth, 7 inches. Ironwood, 22 inches. Mesquite in Michigan, coming in at 18 inches of snow. So definitely quite a bit of snow here in Michigan, or not in Michigan and in Wisconsin. See, I'm still stuck with the word Michigan. All right, now into Minnesota there. If you're in Grand Forks, 5 inches. Fargo, 5 inches. St. Cloud, 9 inches. Minneapolis there, again, we just talked about that, coming in at 6 inches. If you're in Brookings in the Dakotas there, coming in at 4 to 8 inches. When we take a look at, okay, this is Minnesota again. Oh, wait, no, this is Missouri. Sorry. Clinton, there, 6 inches. Springfield, 5 inches. If you are in Kansas City, about 3 to 5 inches is anticipated. Topeka, there, 3 to 5 inches. St. Joseph, 4 to 8 inches. If you're in Lola, 5 to 8 inches. Joplin, 5 to 8 inches. Also, Bartlesville, 2 to 5 inches. And Springdale, 2 to 4 inches. Mountain Home, about 2 to 4 inches also expected with this. So hefty snowfall totals, enough for a winter storm watch to continue here on the National Weather Service. So now, Iowa snowfall totals, Davenport 5 inches. If you're in Dubuque there, 6 inches. Cedar Rapids, 7 inches. If you're in Marshalltown, Des Moines, Creston, 6 to 8 inches of snow is anticipated. Lamar's, 3 to 5 inches. Omaha, 3 to 5 inches. If you're in the Mason City area, 7 to almost 8 inches is anticipated with this winter storm. All right. So now, if you are this is in Omaha, Nebraska. So Grand Island there, 3.5 inches. Lincoln, 5 to 8 inches. Omaha, Nebraska coming in at 5 inches. North Platte there, about 5 inches. Scottsbluff, 2 to 4 inches of snow. If you're in Chadron, they're about 2 inches. Sterling in Colorado, that is, I think that's Colorado. All these square states. Either way, 5 inches there. Colby there, right around 2 inches. And Manhattan there in Kansas, coming in at 4 inches. When you take a look here at, this is going to be in Kansas again. The rest of these areas, Dodge City, only 1 inch. If you're in Wichita, about 2 inches. Ponca City, Bartlesville there at 2 inches. When we take a look at Oklahoma snowfall totals, again, we're looking at as much as about 1 inch to 4 inches of snowfall there, depending on where you're at. Tulsa there, coming in at 2 inches. And then, of course, in Arkansas, this is where you're also expecting some snow. But again, depending on what model you look at, every model is going to have a different output. So you might see a lot, you might not see anything at all. But right now, Mountain Home coming in at 2 inches is the forecast. Fort Smith, about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches. Jonesboro there, about 0.5 inch of snow. So now, let's do one more sector. I did forget to show you all up here in... Did we do South Dakota? No, we didn't. I'm so sorry. So here it is. If you're in Brookings, if you're in Rapid City, 2 to 5 inches. Aberdeen, about 3 to 5 inches of snowfall. When you go up to North Dakota here, this is what you're all forecasted to get. If you're in Minute, if you're in... Bismarck, 4 to 8 inches. Jamestown, 4 to 8 inches. West Fargo, 4 to 8 inches of anticipated snowfall is expected. If you're in Winkler there, in Canada, you're looking at 4.5 inches of snowfall out of this pretty impressive Winter Storm Elliott. So now we talked about those snowfall totals. I'm not going to cover them for Montana because the snowstorm is in progress right now, and you're likely to pick up quite a bit of snow for the mountainous terrain. So now we're going to rephrase and come back to this because we're going to look at some very cold Arctic temperatures. That's going to be the next portion of this video. Dangerously cold, near historic low temperatures are anticipated with this Arctic blast that is going to make its presence known in much of the U.S. I mean, how colorful of a map can you all get, folks? I mean, this is pretty colorful. We got a big clap. We got a clap to the National Weather Service at making this pretty colorful. Right? So if you are under any weather alert, if that's a winter storm watch, wind chill warning advisory, if you're a blizzard warning, please take this seriously, okay? Because about what you're going to see is some dangerously cold temperatures. Hence is why we have the weather alerts issued. So now, here's a look at your surface temperatures on the European model. Again, we're using the more likely outcome because the European model tends to be the more accurate outlier here versus the GFS model. That tends to waffle things a little more crazier. Okay, so temperatures definitely going to start off cold for your Wednesday morning. -15, -25 degrees. It's cold already, but it's going to get even more colder as the Arctic air really spills in. We can see this by Thursday morning. Look at these temperatures. Very cold. -23, -45 degrees, or -36, excuse me there, close to -40 if you're right along the fringe of the Rocky Mountains here, where a lot of that cold air gets trapped. We could be looking at temperatures in the morning on Thursday that could be as cold as -40 degrees. That's just your air temperature. Wait until you see these immense wind chills, all right? Very cold temperatures to start your morning, 5 degrees in portions of, say, Oklahoma, like the western fringe there of the panhandle, could be as low as 0 degrees. Okay, and then going all the way into Friday morning, look at these temperatures, very cold. Indiana coming in at -11 potentially. Northern Arkansas, 0 degrees, maybe -4 there. Look at these temperatures in Oklahoma and Texas. Very cold here for your Friday morning. So really bundle up if you're down here to the south. And if you're up here to the north, might not want to go outside and do anything because it's going to be cold. -12, -15, -22. We have -40 degrees up there in northern central Montana. This is pretty epic, okay? And again, we're adding 25 to near 40-mile-an-hour winds on top of these temperatures. So it's going to be a lot colder than what you see here on the map. This is going to continue all the way through Saturday morning with temperatures that are going to be below 0 across much of the northern tier and portions of the Great Lakes here. South of there, we could see temperatures, especially in Tennessee, that could dip to as low as about 0 degrees. So yeah, make sure you really bundle up, make sure your heater's working because you're gonna need that. All right, and then the colder air continues through at least now middle of next week when these temperatures could fluctuate between about 5 degrees below to -20 to -30 in some sense in Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. It warms up a lot if you're in portions of the Great Lakes as that cold air retreats northward again. But wow, it's going to be a long ride, folks, with these temperatures that are going to be dangerously cold. Now, wind chills. We talked about the actual air temperature. Well, the wind chills are a lot more concerning than the temperatures themselves. And that's because we're going to add a lot of wind, lots of wind energy with this system because the cold front is going to be moving through, tightening pressure gradient. That accelerates the wind, and that also drops the wind chill. So we can see for Thursday morning, wind chill values here in Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming, -50 to -60 degrees. Yeah, that is pretty big. -62 I got here in northeastern Wyoming, okay? And portions here of, yeah, -64 there. That's as low as it gets. So we could have wind chills getting close to -70 degrees. That is pretty dangerous. That's nothing to mess with. All right. Let's go to Friday morning. Look at these wind chills here. -40 in Indiana, -30 perhaps if you were in Missouri. If you are even down, look at this. If you're down across southern Texas, we're looking at wind chill values 0 degrees. On the European model, that is very serious, that far south, okay? And if you are in central, if you're in central Mississippi, Alabama, you're talking about wind chill values as low as 1 degree. So this cold air is really going to be with you. And look at these wind chills up here, still -50, -60 degrees, dangerous. This is absolutely brutal. This is an Arctic air mass you do not want to mess with. I know -5, -10 is something, right? That's cold. But when you factor in a lot of wind here, especially when you're having air temperatures as low as -30 in some areas, that really adds on. I mean, you could get frostbite on exposed skin as little as 2 to 5 minutes in some areas. That's how serious these wind chills actually are. And hypothermia could set in as little as 5 to 10 minutes. All right, so that is something to really keep an eye on for. Just like heat stroke, well, you can get hypothermia pretty easily with these dangerously cold temperatures. This is going to stay with you all through Christmas Day, Christmas Eve. Going to be very serious here, all right, across the Great Lakes. Definitely stay inside, have a cup of coffee, have a cup of hot chocolate, because we're going to be live streaming here on the YouTube channel on this Arctic air mass as well as heavy snowfall. So would be the time to come on down and join my YouTube channel by hitting that red subscribe button, because I will be on top of this. And speaking of that, I will be live streaming on this winter storm. It looks like on Friday based on the models that we're looking at. So definitely a live stream is on the deck of cards. Perhaps even Thursday evening, we're going to do a live discussion on this because this is very serious. And then we're going to probably continue the live stream coverage probably through Friday, since this winter storm is going to be very serious. All right. And also on top of that, the cold Arctic temperatures, folks. Please, I pray that you guys are going to share this with your family and friends on social media, because again, this is impacting a big population, right? Not just a little area. I mean, you can see the National Weather Service alerts, watches, and warnings here. Definitely a very high impact event with Winter Storm Elliott that is going to wreak havoc across much of the eastern U.S., bringing heavy snow, strong winds, blizzard conditions, and utterly dangerously cold wind chills as low as negative 60 degrees in many areas. All right, but anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and please, most importantly, that you share this with your family and friends on social media. Get this out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, on Reddit, on LinkedIn. Spread the word, because this is big. This is a big deal. All right. And also, leave a comment in the section below and let me know how you liked the video, and let me know what you're going to experience. Ask me questions down there, and I will be happy to reply to you as soon as I can when I'm available, because it's going to be busy here in the office. All right. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll be back with you more tomorrow with a live discussion on Winter Storm Elliott. All right. That will be tomorrow evening. All right. Stay tuned.